Hey, what's up? It's Ian McCain. We're in the middle of a 21-song nonstop block right now, so I just thought I would reach out, tell you a little bit about FM 1021's Super Sweet 16th birthday party happening at the rave on Sunday night, October 23rd, with these guys, Beach Weather, as well as Lovely the band, and a very secret, super awesome guest that loves Milwaukee, and Milwaukee loves him. Oh, all right, so you know it's a him. But he will be here as well. And we know that tickets are super expensive right now. Basically, the pandemic screwed everything up with everybody that wanted to tour in 2020 and 2021. That all got pushed back into 2022. So now here's everybody touring, and here's a bunch of expensive tickets. We understand that. So we just wanted to have a party, and we wanted to invite you, and we wanted to make it as cheap as possible. So tickets are just going to be $10.21 on Sunday night, October 23rd. I mean, we want to talk about money. We have no money here. I mean, so much so that they were like, hey, Ian, go make a cool-ass promo video for the birthday party, the Super Sweet 16. And I'm like, okay, where's the money? They said we don't have any. So here's a broke-ass version of that video.
Do we want her looking at the camera right here, or do you want her looking at me?
I think you.
I like that.
Okay. So when I started, Ian had already been there for maybe less than a year, but he was on the other side of the building. So it kind of took me a minute to get to like really know him, you know, but we would talk here and there. And then before I knew it, we were lunch buddies. We were going out and I was watching his cat, and, you know, it was a work relationship, but then it was like a real friendship. Like we shared a very similar sense of humor. So even now I find myself seeing things, and without even thinking, I go to forward them to him and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like he's not here anymore, you know? And that's been really hard. But being able to go back and look at the things since he moved that we still stayed in touch with and could make each other laugh still, and it meant a lot. Just occasionally here and there. It was mostly on social, yeah. Just like, oh, I miss you, and I miss working with you, and I miss, you know, just those kind of things. I miss all of you guys out there and things like that. But Ian was a private person. He really kind of kept a side of himself really guarded, and being able to kind of break through that in the conversations we'd have, going to lunch and hanging out on the weekends and things like that. And kind of, we both were in this dating but sick of it world. And so we'd kind of, you know, bounce our stories off of each other and be able to give each other advice in situations like that. And so I felt like he really could open up, and that was really cool because I knew him and I knew he wouldn't do that with everybody. So just being able to have like, or just a real friendship was really cool. And then we'd go out to lunch and he'd eat a little bit and then he'd go and get a Maverick hot dog on the way back. He's like, I'll just get a hot dog. I'll just eat a hot dog.
It's good, right?
Yeah.
It's good, right?
Yeah. It's hard. It just sucks. I think that's all it is. He just is gone. You know, it was sudden. I think that's the hardest thing for a lot of people. Is that he was here, and then I feel like a lot of people are kind of struggling with closure. So keep going and I'm gonna cry. I think he was on one of his travels because he was, you know, I'm going to Iceland, I'm going to England, I'm going back to England. And it was one of those things that's like, can you just stop by and check on the cat? And of course, like I love cats.
I just realized.
So I remember it had to have been like 2002, 2003, and Ian was programming Channel 1057. And he loved the station, he was so proud of the station, and artists would come through, and Limp Bizkit came through. And at that time, that was a really big deal to have these guys, and the whole band was there. They were in town, they spent the whole afternoon with us, and we're like, don't you have somewhere to be? But they just wanted to hang out with us. And Ian let them take over the radio station. And they did for over an hour, played what they wanted. Every song was unedited. Boys in the Hood, rap on a rock station, which was something that we were like, should we be doing this? There was just a little like, and then Ian's like, let's do it. And we never got caught. And that could have potentially cost us a lot of money. So if I could say one thing to Ian, I would say, I hope you're just pub hopping. And I hope you're going to all the places you never got to go while you were here. Just traveling, seeing things, experiencing new things. Mm-hmm. As crazy as that sounds, you know?
I don't know why this never existed before, because it's super simple and you would think that they would have just combined this. But over in the UK, McDonald's put a chicken Big Mac on the menu. Why has that never existed in the United States? So now McDonald's announced that they're going to start test running the chicken Big Mac here in the States, but it's only in South Florida right now. Like, just put it on the menu. Lucky for you and for me, I went to McDonald's today and I bought all the components to make chicken Big Mac. I'm going to show you what this looks like.
Hi, my name's Pete and I'm an alcoholic. Wait, Ian was an alcoholic. No. Okay, Ian was a great guy. What the fuck is Ian doing? Why is he gone? Okay, that doesn't matter. I love Ian. When I met Ian, and you probably wouldn't believe this, especially if you know me, I think I came on a little strong. I mean, people tend to maybe feel like, what's this guy? Is he trying to take my job? Why is he up my ass all the time? And the deal was, I did want to be a program director of a rock station, which at the time is exactly what Ian was. So I did go in hard. His promotions director really didn't like me. Luckily, turns out he didn't like Ian either. So when he tried to screw me, I had some information I shared with Ian, and that's when we really started being friends. But what connected us the most was the music. I think he thought I was faking it when I'd come in and be like, dude, I love this music, I want to be here. But then I'd come in with like the new Perfect Circle. And he's like, I don't have that yet, how do you have it? Well, I've been in radio a while, I know record reps. I also get to go know bands backstage, things like that. And so he started introducing me to things I didn't really know. We've talked about the Queens of the Stone Age, Ween. That was one nobody seems to know who Ween is. And I'm rolling around and I pass his office and he's playing a Ween song, and not a new one, like from Pure Guava, one of the first albums that they have. And I just turned to him like, you're a Ween weirdo, aren't you? And that's the thing, I guess we're all weird a little bit, but Ian had a specific kind of weird. He was one of the smartest guys I know. You could go anywhere with him. He fits in with everybody. And the thing that I thought was the craziest is how much he loved soccer. I mean, football. He would beat you if you called it soccer. So I would call it soccer all the time just to annoy him. One of the adventures that we did go on, and JD, I think you might have been with us. Justin might have been with us. Oh, Justin was definitely with us. It was Country Jam. And it seemed like everybody disappeared early. It's just me and Ian and one other person. I won't mention his or her name. And we don't know where anybody is. We don't know anybody there. So we just, a little buzz, start walking through the campgrounds. And Ian finds a group of people who are having fun in a little pool. The next thing you know, it's 2 hours later, we're drinking all their beer. Ian's got everybody laughing. And again, he doesn't seem like the guy who would fit in with hillbilly type people. But he made it work, and by the end of the night, he went off with his friend, and I went off with 2 girls that we work with. Both married, and of course nothing happened, but it was a great story. And I know certain people who were jealous. You stayed with who? I don't think so. But they'll confirm it, just not on tape. Anyway, I really do miss Ian, and he's one of those guys that you didn't have to talk to him for a long time. I probably talked to him 6 months ago, and it was like, hey, I'm coming out again the next time Tool's in Chicago or in Milwaukee. Let's stop bullshitting and saying we're gonna get together, and let's get together. And it's like, no matter what, when I'd get close, he'd be like, yeah, I'm coming. And then you don't hear from him. I didn't take it personally. It's just kind of how, I'm kind of that way too. So it's just knowing that you got a friend that you don't have to, check on him every day. Now I kind of wish I'd checked on him a little bit more. But I think at the end of the day, he and I kind of feel the same way about that. Our friends, if you're there and you're a friend, you have to work really hard to screw that up. So you don't have many friends like that in life. So hopefully if you knew Ian as well as we did, and I know a lot of you know him way differently and way better than I do, especially if you're not from Utah, I think we'll all agree that it'll be a big black hole. Sun, that's a Soundgarden reference for Ian. Yeah, it's just a big black hole that's left in our universe, and hopefully he's in it, and he's just going to the other side to see what's there so he can come back and make sure we have a good journey when we get there.
Dude, that was beautiful. I don't think I have to ask you to add anything to it.
Okay, good.
I think you just fucking rolled it.
Perfect.
Thank you, Pete.
The very first time I met Ian, I knew that there was this, I was working for X96. I knew there was this other station in town that, of course, my boss is worried about, but, we never worried about. And one of our on-air people had done a horrible thing to them in a promotion, and I was kind of embarrassed about it. And I knew that Ian was at Porticall the night that I was at Porticall, and I knew Justin Taylor. I knew who he was, and so I had said hi to Justin, and Ian, I knew he was the program director. He was there, and so Justin introduced me to Ian, and I felt so bad. I was like, I'm so sorry that happened to your station, that this horrible thing happened. And he's like, well, we're supposed to be enemies, aren't we? We're supposed to be arch enemies. and I said, yeah, I think so. And he's like, but we're not. We'll be friends. And that's how it was with Ian. Nobody was an enemy of Ian's. No matter what, you were his friend. And so I had a really good friend from then on, and I don't even know how long ago that was. 2003, 2004, and he was we would go maybe a couple years without talking, and then we could pick it right back up again, and it was so great. It was so great, and it was like, he called me Nan, and only my really good friends call me Nan. That's my nickname that my parents gave me. That's, the nickname that my sisters call me. That's the nickname that my parents gave me. That's the nickname that my sisters call me. My very best friends call me Nan, and he called me Nan right away. And he'd always be like, oh, Nan, how are you doing? Oh, Nan, tell me what's going on in Nan's life. Tell me what's going on with you. And he was always interested in you and wanted to know what was going on with you. So like I said, it might be a couple years before you talk to him, but then you go through some emails, or I was going through some emails, and I would have a job in radio and he might be doing something else. I know at one point he went back to school, and I think he was still doing radio, but he told me he was going to Arizona State, which was funny because that's actually where I went to school. That's where I got my bachelor's degree, but he was doing some program, the Walter Cronkite School of Broadcasting at ASU. And he said he was doing some data something. I can't remember all of the details, but he really liked it. And, he and I had several bosses in common that we, had our issues with. And so we would talk about that. We would commiserate on that. We would, and going through these emails, I was like, oh yeah, I could talk to Ian about that because he was right there and he knew what it was like. And there was one particular person that he and I both had worked for, and I remember telling him I was going to take this job. Like I had talked to him and I had emailed him about it, and I was telling him I was going to take this job, and he was like, oh Nan, I don't think you should take that job. And I was like, why? I just want to get back into radio. I want to do it. And he's like, yeah, but I think he's going to kill your spirit. And I mean, for somebody to know you that well, to say they're going to kill your spirit is just really a huge thing. And the crazy thing is, like, this person really did kill my spirit. And looking in several emails later, well, years later, I said to Ian, I said, it was really a crushing blow working for him, and I should have listened to you. I got back into radio again, and I emailed him, and I was like, why did you defriend me? This was on Facebook or something. And he was like, oh man, I did. I'm so sorry. I was going through some stuff. And I said to him, I said, when I got back into radio, I said, there's only 2 people that I really need to connect with. Well, actually, 3, although I was already connected to Crystal because she's my bestie. But I was like, I need to talk to Ian McCain and Sue Kelly. And so he was like, really? I was like, of course, Ian, of course I want to talk to you. And it's really funny because, yes, he had a lot of energy, but oddly enough, he was this really super private person. It's kind of like how we were talking the other day. I knew about his sister. He talked about his sister quite a bit. But as far as, oh, you have brothers? Oh, okay. Oh, what about, your childhood? What about, everything else? So he was very private. He would talk a lot about, food in the Midwest and the best place to get like an Italian sandwich or sub or hoagie in Nebraska, and how he missed all of that. He talked about how he liked being in Wisconsin because, there was really good food there and really good beer, and there people were like a lot more relaxed, and that was really nice. And he was really glad that he made the move, and I think it was a really good move for him. I think it was really good. I think we missed him like crazy, but I think for him that was a good place for him to be.
Yeah,
I mean, that was so Ian. That was so like, let's work together, let's huddle, let's gather the troops, let's make sure that we can get this together. And what's so funny is if he would have had a chance to do that with any of the stations that he worked on in Salt Lake, if anybody here would have let him do that, they would have absolutely shone. They would have been amazing. And he just had that energy of, hey, let's fucking do this. We can do this. So one of the things too that I loved about Ian is other people's friends were his friends too. And so I was out of town when Chris Cornell came one year, and my really good friend Marissa, Chris Cornell was her pick, if I get to sleep with him if I'm married to somebody else, and so she really wanted to meet Chris Cornell, and I called Ian and I said, hey, can you hook up a meet and greet for my friend Marissa? He's like, oh yeah, I love Marissa, she's fantastic. And I don't even know if he'd met Marissa once, twice, whatever, but my friends were his friends, and that's how it was with him. Anybody that if anybody that was his friend, their friends were his friends. Ian, I'm so sorry that I hadn't talked to you in so long. I will forever miss your energy. I will forever miss your friendship. Just hearing your voice, just that unique voice, that energy, that just wonderful personality, that sweet guy, good guy. They're truly good and wonderful. There aren't a lot of good people in the world, and he was definitely one of them.
Hi, it's Ian. The hot and the humid of Chicago is basically the same as it is here, right? It is hot and humid. What, Gary? No, I did not use the word moist, okay?
Ian McCain. He had an imaginary friend named Gary. We all played along with it. Remembering Ian McCain on FM 1021.
When I was asked to talk about Ian, I had to share the story about the very first time that I met Ian. So every Friday night when I worked at Cat Country, I would do my show live from Sandy Station. And I got called into the GM's office and said, hey, we're signing on this radio station. We've got a guy in town. We're going to take him to dinner. We're going to offer him the job. Then we're going to drop him off to you. And I was like, seriously, what do I want to hang out with this guy that's here for an interview from Lincoln, Nebraska? I'm like, I don't even know who it is. But he's like, well, just make sure that he has a good time because we're going to offer him the job. And we want to just make sure that he's liking Salt Lake City. So I was like, all right. He gives me $50. We spent the night at Sandy Station. And if anybody knows Ian, it was probably the greatest night of our life, actually. We became best friends that night. I was so happy that he was here. And yeah, I think I was one of the very first people to meet Ian because he was here on the interview and said, you know what, this is cool. I think I'm going to take the job. And well, it's all history after that. Then it became Justin, Ian, and JD on the town. And I had some of the best memories though because we played Golden Tee like you wouldn't believe. I couldn't even count the amount of money we plugged into a Golden Machine arcade game and just talking for hours and solving the world's problems. But you know what? It was super fun. But it was back in Portugal. It was back when we were in the basement. We could smoke cigarettes and drink beer and play golf online, on the arcade, and it was super fun. I loved it. That's when Drew Miller would come in. Now there's 4 of us playing golf on this machine. And it's like whenever you couldn't find somebody, just head to the basement. There they were, down there, playing golf, hanging out. It was a blast. I loved it. Ian always wanted to go to the lake with me. And there was seriously, it cracked me up like you wouldn't believe. Because he'd call me up and I'd be like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm getting ready to go to the lake this weekend. I want to go. But I'm like in the car. He's like, pick me up. We'll get stuff on the way. So seriously, if anybody knows Ian, this is just who he is. He got everything that he needed for a weekend trip at Maverick. And so seriously, it would be a case of beer, some chips, and every single kind of dip that they have lined up in front of the chips. And he'd be like, let's roll. And that would be the weekend. I'm like, seriously, we got it? He's like, I'm good, bro, let's go. I'm like, only Ian McCain. And then for some reason, and I don't really recall how it happened, he used to throw his shirt in the lake every single time before we left. It was kind of like becoming his tradition. So Fleming Gorge is full of Ian McCain t-shirts that he would throw in at the end of the week for some reason or another. It just became a thing for him. Loved it. Ian lived on Cheetos and Maverick hot dogs and nachos. Let's see, it wasn't Naturalette. I can't think of what the beer was that he always got. Now I can't remember. It was something different though than what we drank, as kids here in Utah. It was whatever his Midwest beer was. He always talked about old style, but we could never get our hands on it. Some of my fondest memories are when I was programming radio stations, and whenever I had a question about something or if I was stuck on something, he would say, let's go to our spot. And our spot was for me to grab my laptop, we would go over to the bar, the spot, and we'd sit on the corner and we would rebuild clocks. And so we would overhaul radio stations, write promos on bar napkins, and those are like the greatest times. I'll remember that stuff for the rest of my life. Like, we have built so many radio stations at the spot on a bar stool on my laptop that most people would be like, really? Yes, that's where you created it? Absolutely, on a bar stool in the middle of the afternoon. Ian, first of all, was a horrible driver and had the worst of luck whenever it came to vehicles. So he had the station vehicle a lot. Whether it was broke down, maybe he just didn't have a car. I don't know if he ever really wrecked them. They just seemed to break down. But I would get calls all the time on people asking me why the My 99.5 van, why is the big green van out in front of your house? Because he would drive it out and then hang out for the weekend because he'd have too much to drink and couldn't go home. So My 99.5, everybody was like, are you doing a broadcast at your house this weekend? No, Ian's just crashed out in the basement. But the other thing too was, remember when he got here, he didn't have a car. And we'd go to the strip club. And I'm like, dude, you can't park that in the parking lot at the strip club. So he'd park it around the corner and have to walk down an alley and be like, either I'd pick him up and then we'd meet at the front, or I'd drop him off, or he'd just walk the alley and come in. But only Ian would drive a big fluorescent van and try to hide it in an alley at Trails downtown Salt Lake. He's lucky that somebody didn't break into the damn thing and steal all the equipment out of it. Cracks me up. Like, seriously, the channel van was not as obvious because it was white with that red logo on it. But man, when he had that fluorescent green My 99.5 van, dude, you couldn't hide that. Like, what's that behind the bush? Just a gigantic green van.
FM 1021. Hey, what's up? It's Ian. So they're saying that it's not going to change anything. Nothing will change, but it's still the end of an era. So while they say nothing's going to change, it's still going to be weird.
Yeah, it's going to be weird.
I have just got to tell you about my buddy Ian McCain. Oh my God, this cat is the coolest cat I think I've ever known, in the sense of in one decade having such a huge impact on my life. I mean, the first time I met him, I remember Justin Taylor brought him over to the house. I had just bought, maybe a year earlier, a studio apartment, condo if you want to call it that, on the 7th floor of the Belvedere, downtown Salt Lake City, right? Unit number 702. I had stripped the wood floors down to its 1917 original wood floors. I'd pulled the wallpaper with all the paint next to it down off the walls, just trying to do a full-blown restoration project at 29 years of age. I was in the process of stripping with a heat gun 7 layers of paint off of the base and case of old growth maple that had no knots in it anywhere. Justin calls me up, hey, there's this guy Ian McCain, he's taking the gig as the new program director for the Active Rock station. We're gonna take him out, show him around town. He hadn't moved to Salt Lake. He was coming from Lincoln, but he was in town, I think looking for housing at that point. So Ian walks in with Justin, and my place was a spot where we would pre-party because it was right downtown. So a lot of people at that time in my life were coming into my place that I looked at as being super, super talented people. And Ian McCain walks in, first thing, looks around my room. I got a queen-size mattress on the floor, crates with my clothes in them, a stack of books. I'm revisiting Jack Kerouac's On the Road. And he looks around and goes, "Say, old Bull Lee, you working on building yourself a shelf that's going to last 100 years? Blew my mind. Loosely pulling a character from the book, throwing it at me, and I sprung back, "Yeah, I'd be done with the sumbitch too if I wasn't popping so many goddamn bennies." We both burst out laughing, and it was like my first taste of how Ian would find out something about you and dive deep. Later that night, after we'd gone to some bars, out to eat, I think we were at Trails, the finest strip club in Salt Lake City at that time, and after doing some shots of flaming Dr. Peppers, Ian looks at me, he kind of leans in, he's like, "So what about Hal from Ginsberg? Have you read that? Or Coltrane, Miles Davis, even Bob Dylan, Back End of Beat, what do you think of that?" And just, I'm like, wow, just digging on like a certain genre of the 1950s that I was really into, and that was kind of like one of our things. But a bigger thing that was part of Ian McCain and I was the fact that was getting away, the travel, the wanderer lust, if you will. I had a Toyota Tacoma, and we used to call it the stupid road tours. Roads in the alpine wilderness of the Uintas or the Wasatch or the West Desert, down into the national parks, dirt roads in southern Utah, dry washes. You probably heard about the 3 guys lost, 3 radio men lost in the Utah desert. We were never lost. Ian was the navigator. We made a wrong turn. As a monsoonal storm rolled in, filling up that dry wash with water, we had to stay the night. Blair Carter knows the whole story. He's the one that called for help by calling, a promotions person at a radio station to help us in the middle of the desert. So who did they call? The local news station. Anyway, those are the kind of experiences I've had with Ian through my life and those explorations and the travels. And it just always felt like when I was with Ian, he was so present with me into the thing I was doing. And kind of the juxtaposition to that is we would go into Shaggy's a lot, where I don't think we ever paid for beer because Ian usually came in with a stack of CDs he'd give to the bartender in exchange for, we'd pay for the first pint, but then it always got topped off before we hit the bottom. And we came in, and the door guy, who he'd made friends with, was wearing a Nick Cage t-shirt, and Ian just kind of lunges at him how Ian did, like super, like, "Oh, dude, did you just go see Nick Cage? How was it? Where was it? San Francisco. Oh my God, was it great?" They're just going back and forth, bang, boom, boom, bam. We go in, sit down at the bar. I'm like, "So who the hell is Nick Cage?" You wouldn't like it. Why? He's a singer, songwriter, down, depressing. Not your thing. You wouldn't like him. Okay. You like him? Not really, but I respect his stuff. I'm like, cool. So, not wanting to be proven wrong, there might be something there. I looked up Nick Cage, I researched Nick Cage, I got a couple Nick Cage albums, I listened to Nick Cage, and a few weeks later I sat down next to Ian at the bar and I said, "Man, Nick Cage fucking sucks." And he says, "See, told you." If I just would have listened, right? I wouldn't have had to waste my time on Nick Cage. So, Ian was so fundamental in where I am today that Unit 702 is now the name of my business, as many of you know, marketing company, Studio 702, a media management company, the anti-ad agency. And he's one of the cornerstones. We're part of the foundation. He was our first web developer. Helped us with the incarnation of our first website. Even after he's gone to Milwaukee, he continued to help me and believe in me and say, "Dude, your shit's great. You're amazing. I love it. More, give it more, do more." Like he was so encouraging to my feeble little talent that I might have, that I started this because he was one of those people that believed I could do this. So with that, I'm going to read from that book that was on my nightstand, something that I think really best describes Ian McCain. Many of you probably already know it, but It's about Dean Moriarty, the star's character. Because the only people for me are the mad ones. The ones who are mad to live, mad to talk, mad to be saved. Desirous of everything at the same time, the ones who never yawn or say a commonplace thing, but burn, burn, burn like fabulous yellow Roman candles exploding like spiders across the stars. Ian's out there right now with all kinds of people having a maddening good time. I just know it. And if you're with us tonight, Ian, I love you, brother. So from Milwaukee and the show that 1021 put on, here are 3 different bands collected together with one of Ian's favorite songs. It's on the back of the programs you've got tonight. God bless. Did I get in one take?
Well, so right now we're waiting for Ian's parents to actually arrive because I don't want to play the video until they arrive. And then I'm also trying to encourage people to eat up this food before it gets cold because we paid a lot of money for it.
Don't look back.